Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, two blokes chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
And this is 94.7 The Pulse. It is Neil and Rob on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show, which goes to where we have to fill in for a few weeks from the 27th of March, as I remember. Is that correct? So that few weeks must just about be up. And the man who is probably in best position to advise as to whether our two or 3 weeks is up yet is on the telephone. It is the big head honcho of 94.7 The Pulse. Leo Renkin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Neil. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very, very well indeed, albeit a little croaky, but that's okay.
Now, listen here. Before we get on to matters pertaining to the reason we're talking to you, what is this crap I hear that you barrack for Richmond?
Yes, that's true.
Why?
Yes, why? That's a long story, but my dad, he went to school with a guy who played for Richmond, Tista De Lorenzo, back in the 60s.
He should have been playing with a round ball.
Oh, thank you for... And welcome to Diversitat, ladies and gentlemen, where we embrace warm multiculturalism. Yeah. Good night. That was Rob, by the way, that said that.
Yeah. No, and he and they were very good friends, and he converted him to being a Tiger supporter because he played in his...
Yeah, that's fine. That's your father explained. What about you? Surely you were sensible enough to make your own decisions?
Yes, well, I was, and I happened to be, the person who grew up right in 81.
Oh, yeah, those are the days. Remember when Richmond was a powerhouse?
That's right.
The ghost.
That's right. And ever since then, there's been a big hiatus. And
but you're riding it now.
Long many years, yeah. But riding it again.
And on last night's form, you look like you've got another one.
Yes, looks like it might be a bounce back, is what they call it, isn't it?
Neil and I have
bounce back.
We've been discussing tactically things, and we reckon that you've got more holes in you than a colander, and the good sides are just going to tear you to pieces.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Just obviously, I'm a Brisbane Lions supporter. Can we just go back through the winning streak between our two clubs for a moment that I've always wanted to talk about since 2010, and I finally got a chance to.
That sounds like a disgruntled Cat supporter in there.
He's a shocker, yeah. And we've got Barnsley coming up. He's worse. But anyway, be that as it may, we didn't come to talk about footy because we know nothing about it. That's quite clearly evident. You are in charge of a vibrant part of the Geelong community in so much as we're talking about 94.7 The Pulse. Things have been a bit out of whack here over recent times.
Yes. We've had to restrict our broadcasting. We had a COVID expert in who came in and told us at the start of the COVID outbreak, which is way back, I think you said before, Neil, 27th of March.
Well, that was our first program.
Yes. Way back then to say that because studios are confined space, it's an area you want to make sure a lot of people don't enter. And when we did the sums, I think we had over 183 people for a week through those little confined space of no more than 4 metres by 4 metres in some cases, and not a good place to be able to stop the spread of COVID when you're looking at things like that, the amount of people coming in. So that's a conservative estimate because people had a lot more guests coming in than that. So we're probably up, around the 250 people going into a 4 by 4 square metre room a week. So we didn't want anyone to be able to be responsible for any spreading of the COVID virus. So we put our numbers right back down, and we've only had live programming like you guys from 9 to 11, and we haven't discouraged other presenters. They can record their program, pre-record their program, send it in, and we put that on a loop. But we are starting to come back next week, but once again with strict conditions, and other presenters will be able to go, but we make sure we have an hour break in between. We've been advised to have an hour break in between so people don't hang around the corridors and chat and cause further spreading of any virus if there's any virus left out there. Hopefully there's not. And so it's a measure that's probably very important for anyone who comes into the Pulse or has come into the Pulse in the past. And, we're hoping in the foreseeable future that most of the programs can come back, but at the moment we have to keep an eye on what we can do and do it to the best of our ability because we've been very lucky to get through the whole COVID outbreak without any cases from the Pulse.
Now, a lot of people probably don't realise that this building also is a training hub for Diversitat and Associates. So again, a lot of people in and out through that. How have you managed that, and what's the future look like?
Well, their courses have gone. Most of their courses have gone online, and there is for students who are really struggling, they can come in and meet some of the trainers, but they're usually a one-on-one, and they make sure they're masked up and they're sitting on, more than 2 metres away from each other. So I think the big issue is with a lot of the COVID thing is once you go indoors, it's a completely different environment for COVID to be able to spread. And so you've got to be more than vigilant to make sure it doesn't spread, particularly in confined spaces like studios, but also, classrooms as well. And as you'll notice, or you probably know, most buildings now are just air conditioned. They don't really have the old windows you can open up.
Mm.
And that circulates through systems as well. So it's a pretty scary time for being, able to spread COVID around in terms of our buildings now probably aren't the best to cope with that as well. And I'm not saying just our buildings, I'm saying, the buildings in general, because we've seemed to have shifted away from having open windows anymore. We seem to be, confined spaces with circulated air being pumped through them, which isn't that dissimilar from an aeroplane, really. And we can see what's happened to the aviation industry. There's not too many people flying at the moment.
So obviously, community radio being community, it's a lot about people, not only what we put out to to our listeners, but also the interaction with the community for a number of our presenters. Whilst there's been an opportunity to present their program, and so, if you will, practice their craft, that's an expression I enjoy enormously. Anyone who's listening to us thinks, yeah, actually, these two blokes might want to go and practice their craft at some stage. But the fact that interactivity that goes on with people calling in, people using Facebook, people interacting via text messages, all that sort of stuff, we would have some presenters who have been doing it pretty tough for 6 months, I would have thought, just because they haven't had that level of interaction.
Yeah, well, that's a very crafty question you got there.
Oh, thank you very much. You've been working on that, haven't you?
Yes.
Well done.
No, you're right in terms of there are some people who are, immunocompromised, as they call it, who are obviously very isolated in these situations. And particularly, I'm thinking of some of our elderly presenters, or older presenters, I should say.
Like Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got it. Who've got it, medical issues.
Yeah.
It's a very scary thought to, go into somewhere where, well, like I said, there's probably over 250 people going into the same space, and thinking that you're going to be safe. And so they have been isolated not only from us, I suppose, but one of them I spoke to has been isolated from their family. Their family have said to them, we're putting your health first, and we'll be dropping stuff at the door, and we'll be, speaking to you via the internet, and some people don't even have internet.
Yep.
Yeah. So for those people, it's been a very isolating experience. But we've been phone calling every now and then to see how people are coping. And one person did tell me they've done enough jigsaws to sink a ship. But
and jigsaws of sinking ships. They've got both.
That's right. So yeah, it's been a very tough time, particularly for people who come into the Pulse, who do programs, because it's always been a very social outlet, and we've always encouraged that. A lot of people come in for their weekly chat and hear what's going on, and there's a few members who it really hits hard, because that's their social outlet as well as their hobby, I should say, of coming in to do some kind of radio or practice their craft, as you would say. But it is a social outlet for a lot of people, and we're well aware of that.
And good morning to Ronnie Bucketberg, who definitely fits into that category.
Yes, and he's struggling along well. He's doing very well, Ron, which is good to hear.
Absolutely. And on a positive note, all of that is positive, don't get me wrong, but we are sitting in a brand new studio outlay, which is in a way has been great, because with limited numbers of people here, it means that we've been able to get the studios revamped. And whilst it's it's certainly
lavish,
it's lavish. That's a good point. I'm still sitting on a chair with a hole in the cover, but let's not worry about that. It wasn't until Rob sat on it, funnily enough. But it's almost a rebirth opportunity for the station, isn't it? To start sort of thinking, we've got some new people working here. We've got probably some new programs coming out of this, because I guess there'll be some people who won't come back. It's a real opportunity, I would have thought, for the station to relaunch itself as being the vibrant member of the community that it has always been.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues we faced in the past. With over 76 programs a week and all those people going through the studios, when do you actually take time out to fix the studios? Because you literally can't. It's just constant 24 hours of, broadcasting.
Yep.
And then we could, we've tried even going overnight, but sometimes our shows go through about 12:30 and the next one starts at 7:30 in the morning, so you don't even get a big enough break we've done jobs through the night time before, laying carpet tiles and things in there. But you don't even get a big enough break to be able to pull a complete studio apart and rebuild a whole studio.
Mm.
So we did take the time. We cordoned off and we went from one studio and closed off the other studio, fixed up one studio, then closed that studio off, and then we're going to the next studio. So it's been a good time to be able to get a lot of stuff done that would be very hard to coordinate, as in the past. So we did take that opportunity, and we're glad it came along.
And we really appreciate it too, because it's just nice. It's nice and fresh and tidy, and it's good to be involved in. So thanks for updating us. For the avid Pulse listener, more will be rolling along shortly. Keep an eye out for the afternoon programs that will be kicking off very shortly. And keep up the good work.
Sorry, Rob, before we go, we should also mention the excellent job Mitchell Dyer did last week.
Oh, that was brilliant.
With digital democracy, which we've always been very proud of our debates, our political debates, which we do, at a local level, on a state level, on a federal level. And this year we were faced with that issue of what are we going to do, because we can't have people in there to ask questions anymore. And the candidates couldn't all probably come. Some of the wards, I think there was 10 or 11 people running. So we actually did it online, which was broadcast as well, but online and through Zoom, which was quite an effort. And I suppose a lot of people tuned in, but to get to people who aren't always that familiar with audio and also with, I suppose, Zooming was no easy task. But he did an excellent job, and I think I think there was, each day there was like over 1,000 people tuning in on YouTube, I think it was. Which goes to show that, we're working our way around different things, and it's we hope we don't have to do it in the future, but, as you said, there is always ways around, and we've had to do a lot of effort we've had to go through a lot of stuff to get to be able to provide people with all those things, but it's great that we can do it.
Unconfirmed rumour, and please, if it's confidential, don't say anything, but unconfirmed rumours that the White House has been in touch asking if Mitchell will manage the debate between Biden and Trump. Is that true?
Well, I'd be speaking out of school if I if I let the whisper out.
It might be declared to be fake news. Leo Renkin, always a great thrill to have a chat to you. Always nice to know that you're up and about when your football team has a win. Sadly, that won't be the case in a couple of weeks, all things being equal. But good to chat.
It's a bit of feline friends, isn't it? There's cats, tigers, and lions.
Yeah, yes. Hopefully, no magpies or power to be seen. Always a great pleasure. Looking forward to seeing your handsome face in person at some stage soon.
Rightio.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Leo.
Bye. Thanks, Rob.